Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome, particularly to any folks who might be joining us for the first time here today. We're so glad you've found this progressive and inclusive spiritual community, the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Santa Rosa. My name is Chris Bell, and I have the great good fortune of being the minister here, and I'm glad you're here too. This community is built around a simple mission that guides us in our daily lives and our long-term plans and dreams. It is to celebrate life, empower people, care for one another, and help to build a better world. And if you want to do that with a bunch of fun and loving people, you have a home here. I would normally like to be worshiping in the sanctuary with our beautiful chalice and the big bell and so forth, but we're having some connectivity issues, some network issues here. And even the biblically prescribed method of turning everything off and turning it back on again did not solve the puzzle. So I'm coming to you from my office here at the Glaser Center. If you want to stick around for later in the afternoon, after the service ends in about an hour, some of us pause for lunch or a nap even, and come back together at 12:30 for coffee hour. The link for that is on the front page of our website. You can find it on Facebook too. If you want to talk about the service and make new friends, I hope you'll come back here at 12:30. You may have heard that the surge in coronavirus is requiring us to make a change to our building policy again. So soon after we had recently opened things up for activities on the courtyard, that starting at the end of next week, we will actually return to not having public gatherings here at the physical space until after the holidays, because frankly, there was so much demand, which breaks my heart, knowing that folks long to come here and soak up some of the energy of the place. I know I love being able to do that. But we must keep each other safe, and I pray that you are being smart and being safe out there. And I think those are all our announcements. Good to be together again. We're going to gather ourselves even further with more music. I'm going to share the screen, and we're going to sing our old hymn, One More Step. Which I just have to make totally visible. One more step. I hope you know it. You'll learn it right away if you don't. One more step. We will take one more step till there is peace for us, and everyone will take one more step. One more word. We will take one more word till every word is heard by everyone. We'll say one more word. One more prayer. We will say one more prayer till every prayer is shared by everyone. We'll say one more prayer. One more song. We will sing one more song till every song is sung by everyone. We'll sing one more song. One more step, one more time. One more step. We will take one more step till there is peace for us, and everyone will take one more step.
Good morning. Our chalice will be lit this morning by Reverend Chris. And the words are from the Reverend Gretchen Haley. The healing in freedom. Freedom has a rhythm to it, a longing our bodies know without words, a movement away from everything small and scared, a waking up to possibility, healing backwards and forwards. Even now, we are beginning again, unafraid of this much mercy, tenderness, pleasure. We come to lean in, to learn the sound of liberation, like the sound of our names receiving and releasing. We come to be free for more than ourselves, to call love the greatest liberty, to sing of loyalty, courage, and kindness, to remember that we are all doing the best we can. Despair hasn't gotten us yet, nor overwhelm, which is a kind of miracle, surrounded as we are by this much beauty. Come, let us worship together.
You're broken down and tired of living life on the merry-go-round, and you can't find the fighter, but I see it in you, so we gon' walk it out. Move mountains, we gon' walk it out. Move mountains, and I'll rise up high like the waves. I'll rise up in spite of the ache. I'll rise up and I'll do it 1,000 times again. And I'll rise up, rise like the day. I'll rise up in spite of the ache. I'll rise up and I'll do it 1,000 times again. Silence isn't quiet, and it feels like it's getting hard to breathe. And I know you feel like dying, but I promise we'll bring the world to its feet and move mountains, bring it to its feet. Move mountains, and I'll rise up, rise like the day. I'll rise up in spite of the ache. I'll rise up and I'll do it 1,000 times again. And I'll rise up and I'll rise up. High like the waves, I'll rise up. In spite of the ache, I will rise 1,000 times again. And we'll rise up, rise like the day. We'll rise up, rise unafraid. We'll rise up, and we'll do it 1,000 times again. For you, for you, for you, for
How lucky are we that wonderful lady likes to hang out with us and sing with us and sing for us. Our choir director, Sadie Sontag. We're going to read together from the hymnal. As we do, I'll read the bold. You can read as much as you want. Actually, I can't stop you. But normally, I would read the bold and you would read the italics, and it would kind of go back and forth. So that might feel right. In any event, these are the words of Martin Luther King Jr., A Network of Mutuality, from the hymnal. He reminds us, we are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. There are some things in our social system to which all of us ought to be maladjusted. Hatred and bitterness can never cure the disease of fear. Only love can do that. We must evolve for all human conflict a method which rejects revenge, aggression, and retaliation. The foundation of such a method is love. Before it is too late, we must narrow the gaping chasm between our proclamations of peace and our lowly deeds, which precipitate and perpetuate war. One day we must come to see that peace is not merely a distant goal that we seek, but a means by which we arrive at that goal. We must pursue peaceful ends through peaceful means. We shall hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope.
One each person is worthwhile, two be kind in all you do. Three, let's help each other grow, four, keep searching for the true. Five, each person has a say. Six, work for a peaceful world. Seven, we'll rebel miles away. That will bring us back to you.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to another Time for All Ages. My name is Eric Capone, and I am so happy to be here with you today. This morning in RE, we had an amazing discussion about resilience through the lens of comfort. We had discussions about comfort food, comfort toys, comfort activities, and coping mechanisms in general. The children offered a wonderful variety of ways that they comfort themselves, from eating mac and cheese to hugging a stuffed animal to playing video games. I thought it was so interesting too. The kids also made the really kind of mature observation that while comfort can be nice, it's not something that you always want, and in fact can even be a little unhealthy. It was really a delightful conversation. To start us off in this topic during RE, we heard the story Fry Bread, written by Kevin Noble-Maillard and illustrated by Juana Martinez-Neal, which I'll be playing for y'all shortly. This simple, almost lyrical story gives us insight into a modern Native American family through fry bread, which is a traditional Native American dish. It's a story about finding resilience and comfort through family, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. The story we're reading today is called Fry Bread, a Native American family story. Fry bread is food. Flour, salt, water, cornmeal, baking powder, perhaps milk, maybe sugar. All mixed together in a big bowl. Fry bread is shape. Hands mold the dough flat like a pancake, round like a ball, or puffy like Nana's softest pillow. Ooh, looks like something's smelling good. Listen. Fry bread is sound. The skillet clangs on the stove. The fire blazes from below. Drop the dough in the skillet. The bubbles sizzle and pop. Fry bread is color. Golden brown, tan, or yellow, deep like coffee, sienna, or earth. Light like snow and cream, warm like rays of sun. Fry bread is flavor. See beans or soup, smell tacos, cheese, and vegetables. Delight in honey and jam. Rise to discover what brings us together. Oh, I see some lettuce and honey and corn, some cherries.
Cheese too.
Cheese too. Can't forget the cheese. Fry bread is time. On weekdays and holidays, supper or dinner, powwows and festivals, moments together with family and friends. Oh man, I am getting hungry looking at all this. What are they doing here? Making some baskets. Fry bread is art. Sculpture, landscape, portrait, our daily craft, shared from teacher to student, a cycle of heritage and fortune. Fry bread is history. The long walk, the stolen land, strangers in our own world. With unknown food, we made new recipes from what we had. Fry bread is place. Alaska, Kansas, all the way to Maine, down to Delaware, on to Georgia, over to Oklahoma, Colorado, and California. That's where we are. Cities and lands we call home. It's like she's pointing to Hopland Band of Como. Fry bread is nation. Abenake, Apache, Arapaho, Ojibwe, Ondonaga, Ogalasiu, Narangaset, Navajo, Nipmuc, Seminole, Shoshone, Sac, and Fox, hundreds and hundreds of tribes. Fry bread is everything. Round, flat, large, small, north, south, east, west, brown, yellow, black, white, familiar and foreign, old and new, we come together. That looks like it. Fry bread is us. We are still here, elder and young, friend and neighbor. We strengthen each other to learn and survive. Rye bread is you. Thank you, everyone. The reason we read that story today is because it's a beautiful telling of a Native American family. And as we prepare for Thanksgiving, I know many of us are holding in our minds and hearts the Native cultures that have been hurt by some of the lies we tell about Thanksgiving. While Native people and their allies have tried to tear down stories of Pilgrims and Indians for decades, this rosy mask for colonization and genocide continues to be a fixture of many Thanksgiving celebrations. That is why, as we prepare for a strange Thanksgiving, I ask you to uplift Native voices however you can, offering a prayer during your dinner, acknowledging the history of this holiday, supporting Native businesses, educating yourself on the real history of Thanksgiving, and correcting others when they participate in the untrue narrative of the holiday. During a holiday that is meant to celebrate gratitude and love, no better expression of those ideals than through allyship. And with that, I would like to lead you in our unison affirmation. We are Unitarian Universalists, people of the open minds, the loving hearts, and the helping hands. Thank you.
Thank you, Era. We have arrived at that portion of our service where we express our great virtue of generosity and support of the community by taking a collection for a worthy cause. And this week it is the YWCA, and we've got a fine little video to show you. Before we go there, Michael, let me just share the screen real quick. The easiest way to make a donation is by visiting this, our congregational website, where you can also enter your information into Realm, as we've been begging you to do for months. You click on Give Now, takes you over to a new screen where you can pick Sunday, share the basket with organizations, boop, 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 put in some funds and continue. You can also pay your pledge or anything else you might want to do while you're there. And here's why I hope you will give generously to the YWCA.
Greeting friends at the Unitarian Universalist Congregation Santa Rosa. I'm missing being with you in person today. This is Madeline Keegan O'Connell. I'm with YWCA Sonoma County, the local community's answer to families' call who are impacted with violence in the place they should feel the most safe, inside their own homes. YWCA offers the community's only 24/7 crisis hotline. That number is 546-1234. The community's only confidential safe house shelter for families who need to flee their own homes. The community's only therapeutic preschool for children ages 3 to 5, many of whom have witnessed violence in their own homes. And lastly, the glue that I believe binds all of our programs together, individual counseling and support group therapy sessions for everyone in the YWCA family. Today, you can make an important contribution to keeping Sonoma County families safe from harm by giving to YWCA Sonoma County. Thank you so much for your consideration and your attention to my message. You can learn more about us at ywcasc.org. Thank you, everybody. Please stay healthy and safe.
And in anticipation of the giving we do, let's read together our offertory response. To the work of creating beloved community within and beyond our walls, we dedicate these offerings and ourselves.
Good morning. I'm Paula Hammet, one of your lay chaplains. Milestones are where we share our joys and sorrows with the congregation. You're invited to light a candle to remember those you are holding near to your hearts. These are the milestones for this week. From Nancy and Mac Freeman. Our daughter Becca had her 30th birthday this week. She lives in Fresno with her husband Nathan and works at Valley Children's Hospital. Roger De Beers reports, Wednesday, 25th November, I have my left droopy eyelid surgery. I hope this second surgery is more successful than the first surgery. Stephanie Reed wrote, "This past Wednesday night, my sister and brother-in-law's handmade and remote home burned down in the Mountain View firestorm off of Highway 395. They and their dogs are okay. Let us please take a moment to send good thoughts to all of those who lost their homes and belongings and for all they are going through." Cathy Reed and Victor Cummings share, "Dear friends, after long and deep consideration, we have made the decision to move away from Santa Rosa. This decision has been driven by, among other things, the stress of repeated fire events endured in our beautiful city and its surrounding area. Cathy has been offered a position at the VA at American Lake, just south of Tacoma, Washington. Since there's no start date established yet, we will likely move sometime after the first of the year, so it's not goodbye quite yet. We are sad, excited, and curious about what the future holds for us, and know we will miss our wonderful UU community more than words can say." Ila Benavides Heister's daughter, Lavon Heister O'Malley, died a hard but beautifully exquisite death on Sunday, November 15th. No more pain for Lavon now as she soars body free once again. Tamara Merle writes, "Thursday, November 20th marked the annual Transgender Day of Remembrance, a time to honor those transgender and gender nonconforming people who have been lost to fatal violence, overwhelmingly people of color. We hold their family and friends and beloved communities in our hearts and hold the vision of a world where we can all live authentically, safely, and are cherished." And from Beth Craven, "I tested positive for COVID during a regular test for work earlier this month. I had no symptoms and was shocked by the results. Our family is now in quarantine to protect the community. We are all well with no symptoms, but retesting while the family is in the incubation period for the virus. I am the perfect example of why we should all be wearing masks and maintaining 6 feet distance. I am perfectly well and had no clue I was infected, and do not know where I picked it up because I have been following the guidelines. My hope is that we can protect one another so that we can see each other again in the sanctuary in the new year. Be well and keep others well." If you have something to share with all or a private concern to talk over with a lay chaplain, please contact us at laychaplains@uusantarosa.org. We give thanks for the sharing of these milestones, for how they remind us of our shared humanity and common fate, and inspire our compassion and care. May all our joys be magnified as we delight together in the good news. May all our sorrows be eased as we carry them together in community. May you who are searching for courage, comfort, faith, and hope find what you seek. And may all people grow in wisdom, compassion, and love, that the whole world might live with justice and in peace. Take care and be well."
And I just want to extend that prayer for us, saying thank you, Spirit of Life, for the gift of life and for the gift of this day and for this beloved community and all the circles of connection that give our lives richness and meaning, for this network of mutuality that we live in, that is us and our lives. We are tender today with many concerns and fears and carrying wounds, and with our concerns for those who've been named, extending a prayer of love and healing and courage to Beth and her family dealing with COVID, and Sally's son and his family, all of the folks we may know, and everyone, all of us who are still dealing so fearfully with this ongoing pandemic. Praying as well for the swift rollout of that vaccine and the return to a life where we get to hug and touch each other again. be present to Ilah, Great Spirit, as love and courage as she deals with the death of her daughter, and to all here who are grieving in various ways, losses of various kinds. May we rise up in the strength and love that lies within us. We pray, as we have been, for our nation and for its leaders, that our democracy be preserved and that wise and future-oriented heads will prevail as we chart our way through these unprecedented waters. And pray to just live forever in a spirit of gratitude, even for life's struggles, but particularly for its many blessings, that we may ourselves then extend those blessings to others in all our days. May it be so. Amen. We're going to sit in silence for a little time together, and both Cathy and my words today very much center on the body, the way the body carries trauma, and the way the body also manifests resilience, the wisdom that we carry in our bodies, this wonderful essence / companion tool that we are. And I'd like you to really use this time of stillness to concentrate on your body, just by anchoring yourself first in your breath and letting that move through you and lead your awareness to the various places in your body, in particular where you might be holding tension. Breathing again deeply and just sensing from top to bottom what the state of your body is. You don't need to have a reason to do this. The mere doing of it is indeed good for you. So let's just sit in stillness together, treasuring this loving community and the love that lies in our hearts, and attending to the gift of the body.
Our recent election was characterized by our president-elect as a battle for the soul of our nation. The need for healing the wounds of racism has never felt more urgent, but sadly, I think we all know that the election of the good guy is not going to magically heal these gaping historical wounds, especially when so many of my fellow Americans went ahead and voted for the other guy. Yet daily, I hear exhortations that we need to move forward, to reconcile, to heal, as though with enough can-do spirit and willpower, this healing will just happen. We are resilient people. Let's hurry up and heal and be resilient again. Sure, many of us have had to be resilient to survive, but what exactly is resilience? Is it the ability to just buck up and move forward? Remember those inflatable clown toys some of us had as kids that were weighted at the bottom? No matter how many times or how hard the clown was punched, he always bounced back. I fear that if we embrace this version of resilience, we surely will not heal. We can't move forward until we can look back and fully acknowledge what it is that we are healing from. A while back, my dear friend Susan Pantea recommended a book to me that has radically widened my view of trauma and resilience. This book. The book is called My Grandmother's Hands: Racialized Trauma and the Pathway to Mending Our Hearts and Bodies. It's written by an African-American clinical social worker and psychotherapist named Resmaa Menakem. There's a lot to this book, and I can't fully do it justice in this few moments, but I can share a few personal truths that it's helping me to uncover. Menakem writes about how white people arrived on our shores generations ago in a highly traumatized state, having escaped persecution and brutality going all the way back to the Middle Ages, and in turn have acted out this unhealed trauma on the bodies of Black people for generations. This cycle of traumatization has persisted all the way to the present because these historical traumas have never been healed. They live on in the bodies of Black people and white people and all people in this country. Now, being a trauma therapist, I know very well that unresolved trauma lives on in the body, but I somehow never thought about this in terms of this historical racialized trauma. I hadn't thought about how this trauma lives on in my body, though the consequences for my white body are very different than those for my Black brothers and sisters, because I benefit from the social construct of white privilege, whether I want to or not. I started seeing some things that I cannot unsee. How I have avoided looking too closely at my own internalized trauma around race, because doing so makes me feel helpless and afraid. I know really well that avoidance of emotional pain is a response to trauma. What I'm finally getting is that in avoiding that pain, I am preventing my own healing as well as the healing of others. And let's be real, my pain and discomfort are nothing compared to what my Black sisters and brothers have endured and continue to endure. If we're truly in this together, then I cannot possibly continue to look away. I can trace my ancestry back to Scotland, Scandinavia, and Western Europe, but it is my distinctly American heritage that really hangs me up. My ancestors were among those who colonized this country, and in subsequent generations migrated to the South, Midwest, and West. My family was proud to claim as ancestors an original signer of the Constitution on my dad's side, and a family of famous abolitionists on my mom's. I've always taken pride in my constitutionalist forefathers and abolitionist foremothers. They are acceptable ancestors. But what about all the others in my family tree who spread out across the country? No matter how you roll the dice, there can be little doubt that some of my forebears owned Black people as slaves and abused their bodies. For every civil rights lawyer in my family tree who fought for justice in the South generations later, there must also be a distant cousin who participated in lynchings. I have not wanted to claim these ancestors. I've certainly not wanted to claim them as parts of myself. When I quiet my resistance long enough to sit with who I fully am in my DNA and in my trauma body, really painful feelings bubble up. There is deep shame and remorse and horror that this is part of my personal history. I feel these feelings in my body, in the pit of my stomach, in the sting of tears behind my eyes, in the constriction of my throat. I want to disown these parts of myself that I have relegated to the shadows. I did not choose this ancestry. These ancestors have violated all that I value in myself. I have suffered moral injury in addition to unresolved trauma. I do want to turn away from this, but I see that turning away will allow this trauma and injury only to live on in my body. Not looking, not feeling, means risking continued harm to others and to myself. I'm seeing that despite years of therapy, I still have some serious work to do. The good news for me is that in this book, Resmaa Menakem has given me a gift and a roadmap. He has reminded me that because trauma lives in the body, healing from intergenerational racialized trauma must happen in the body. He has encouraged me not to turn away from the pain, but to create safety for myself and allow it to be felt. He has reminded me that by practicing mindfulness, I can calm my body, I can allow space for what is present, accepting discomfort, staying present in my body, and discharging the energy of released trauma. He has reassured me that I don't need to be afraid of feeling old and deep pain, because feeling it and allowing its expression is how trauma is metabolized. He has reminded me that feeling pain is not inherently dangerous, and that though I am a sensitive and emotional being, I am not fragile. I do have the strength to begin to try to heal this racialized trauma that dwells in my body. Knowing this brings me a sense of hope, which in turn helps me feel more resilient, and resilience can keep me moving forward. About resilience, Resmaa Menakem writes this: resilience is not a thing or an attribute, but a flow. It moves through the body and between multiple bodies when they are harmonized. It is neither built nor developed. It is taken in and expressed as part of a larger relationship with a family, a group, a community, or the world at large. This is a vision of resilience I can embrace.
I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open. I know this rose will open. I know this rose will open. I know this rose will open.
For the last 4 months, I have been dealing with what's called a frozen shoulder. I cannot lift my left arm higher than this. I thought it might have happened when I pulled that bunch of orphans from the burning school bus that had crashed out there on Highway 1, but the doctor said since that didn't really happen, it actually probably just came from sleeping on it funny. And yet for 4 months, pain, ache, limited mobility has significantly increased my own body awareness. Isn't it funny how we take our bodies for granted when they're doing so well, and then just a little bit even of pain or suffering can bring us right back into the thing. It's really given me a lot of sympathy, a lot of empathy, I should say, for people who deal with chronic pain, for people who carry trauma in the body in tight and painful ways, which, as Cathy made so clear, as Resmaa Menakem makes so clear, is all of us. All of us, everyone right here. There's no one in this room that's not carrying the aches and pains of being a human being. We've all been dealing with extra portions of chronic pain and trauma lately. Of course, the last 9 months of the pandemic. How can you not find yourself crunching up with fear when you hit the grocery store or whatever it might be? The chronic pain and trauma of the last 4 years. The chronic pain and trauma of the last 400 years. As Cathy described, our history on this continent of intergenerational racialized trauma, and really the last 10,000 years of human history with its seemingly endless cycles of conquest and brutality and control rising out of the difficult web of life that involves, if you haven't noticed, lots of eating of each other. The pain of that is in, of, and gives shape to our bodies. And it runs that deep and that far and that widespread. This shouldn't come as any surprise to us, at least to me as a Buddhist, recalling the Buddha's first noble truth. All life is filled with suffering. There seemingly isn't a way to move forward in the world without accumulating the carrying of trauma. We all have it. The good news is we also all have a natural capacity for and possibility of resilience. And this dual fact of our shared suffering and our shared possibility to heal and to grow binds us together. If in much of history, the trauma has bound us in recurring cycles of violence and fear and re-traumatization, it can also bind us in a common project of mutual healing and understanding. I'm aware, even in my own body right now, talking about trauma can elicit a bit of a trauma response. Like, oh, are we really going to talk about that? I see Cathy shaking her shoulders too. I might not be the only one. And if that happens for you right now, take a moment. Since intentionally bringing loving awareness to our bodies is the path I'm going to present to you. If this very talk right now of trauma feels like too much at any point, just take a few deep breaths, get regrounded, and in an experience with loving attention the sensation of your physical body. This path of wisdom, of rooting ourselves in the human experience of the body, comes this week in particular, as you heard from this extraordinary book, My Grandmother's Hands, which I'm also reading, Resmaa Menakem, and an earlier book that I read that introduced the notion to me called The Body Keeps the Score, which is also just about how our own personal experiences, not so much the societal or cultural ones that Menakem talks about, but family experience and whatnot, how we carry those things in our body. And the insights of those books have been really profound for me as I myself try to heal from trauma and be a better human being in relationship to the people around me here in America in the 21st century. And the central insight, it's old wisdom, it's bumper sticker worthy, is that the way out is through. That the only way to penetrate and dismantle structures of sorrow and trauma and woe in our bodies and in our culture is actually to face them with awareness and with kindness for ourselves. This turns out to be not just kind of a new agey way of approaching healing. This is like getting to be more and more hard science. That talk therapy, that politics is not enough, that if we really want to change ourselves and change the world, if we want to take the trauma we've all carried forward seriously, incredibly, the first step, the essential vital step, is for each of us to get rooted in our own bodies and to experience there whatever pain may arise. I know that doesn't sound like good news. Here's something I want you to do. Sit with your pain. But guess what? If I haven't established it yet, I don't know how to. You've already got it. We've already got that pain. Menachem says we're all carrying the pain of hundreds of years of practices that have mutated and distorted the relationship between white bodies and black bodies and every person in their own body. That's already there. And so there's only two choices. He says one is to be mindful and experience what those thoughts and bring up in us. He calls that clean pain. The pain that comes, in his example, when you really have to say something you don't want to say to somebody, but you say it anyway. Like, as awful as that is, but you do it anyway, and it kind of hurts and it's scary, but then something good comes out on the other side. That pain he describes as clean pain. That's the pain of rooting ourselves in the body. Clean pain. I might say cleaning pain, cleansing pain. The only other alternative is what he calls dirty pain, which is then sooner or later, then instead of metabolizing it, you will turn it on yourself or on others. We all do this. As I said, the good news, if we do get rooted in our bodies, is that we find out that they don't just carry trauma, they also carry resilience. The body has its own natural healing power. And not just our bodies carry that resilience, I realize. Just as the culture carries forward the trauma, the culture also carries a lot of resilience, and particularly the cultures of the people who have been forced to endure the majority of the suffering that this strange society we live in is. Menachem says if we pursue careful practices of mindful, loving attention of the body, we are participating in what he calls somatic abolitionism, the freeing of all of us from being enslaved to the errors and cruelties of the past, and allowing ourselves to move forward into a future that we can share with greater love and greater kindness. Awareness itself is medicine, we discover. That what we are in our soul or heart or mind nature is, in fact, big enough to hold the trauma and pain of our bodies and transform it. We just have to be willing to tolerate some discomfort along the way. And I observe that no healing that I've ever experienced in my life was without pain. That if you break a bone, the healing of that bone aches itself. It hurts, right? I don't know why the world is this way. I really don't, but it is. And every religion in the world has, given different ways of trying to make sense of that suffering, of that universal fact that though there is life and the birth, there is inexorably some pain and suffering with it as well. And though they explain it in different ways, they all say you have to face it. And I think it's just kind of remarkable that as vast as the problems of the world are, as deep as the wounds we may carry might be, that actually a simple practice, sitting still, feeling, being quiet and rooting ourselves in the here and now, just really in our physicality, turns out to be a thing that might not just heal us, but might heal the whole world. If you've been wondering as you face all of the challenges that the incredible activism around racial justice is bringing forward right now, I want to do something. I might suggest today, actually, don't do something, except be with your body. Think about how these thoughts and songs today make you feel and see what comes up there. And then do it again tomorrow. And do it again the day after that. One thing Menachem emphasizes in his work is the importance of repetition and consistency. In his words, you have to do the thing that sucks in order to heal. And maybe that's sitting with that pain, a little bit at a time, every day, remembering that the work of healing the world is not a sprint, it's a marathon. Although actually I might say not a marathon, just a walk. One step at a time, a walk together out here in the great outdoors. Let's take that walk together.
Just as long as I have breath, I must answer yes to life. Though with pain I made my way, still with hope I meet each day. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to life. Just as long as visionless, I must answer yes to truth. In my dream and in my dark, always that elusive spark. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to truth. Just as long as my heart beats, I must answer yes to love. Disappointment pierced me through, still I kept on loving you. If they ask what I did best, tell them I said yes to love.
Our closing words are from the Reverend Darcy Roque. There is too much pain in this world to not heal every day. Each of us ministers to a weary world. Let us go forth now and do that which calls us to make this world more loving, more compassionate, and more filled with the grace of divine presence every day. May it be so.